another video. Today we will be talking about this leaked internal poll from the Senate Leadership Fund. This is the Republican Senate committee, basically, that's in charge of running the Senate campaigns whenever they may be, midterm elections, presidential elections. And they conducted a series of internal polls. The purpose is to, show their donors, show that they're doing well, to say, give us more money and we'll get you what you want, right, in Congress in terms of legislation and everything. They are, simply put, internal polls are meant to make your campaign look good. These polls are not good for the Republican Party. This is just a stunning batch of polls that shows that Democrats can somehow actually keep control of the Senate, which is not something that we were even talking, in consideration about happening in 2024. It looks like it is still possible for Democrats, which is just really astonishing looking at the just awful map that they have in 2024. Just such an unlucky map for them. It's extremely hard, by chance when it comes to which states have Senate races this year. So what does this poll say? Well, they conducted polls in 10 battleground Senate races. This is supposed to say AZ for Arizona, not Arkansas. But let's get to the results. So in Arizona, this internal poll from the Senate Republican Leadership Fund shows that Ruben Gallego, the Democrat, is beating Kari Lake by 5 points in Arizona. In Maryland, Angela Also Brooks is beating the former Republican governor, Larry Hogan, by 8 points. In Michigan, the Democrat is leading by 8 points. Not too long ago, Republicans had very strong hopes of actually picking up that seat in Michigan. It's looking increasingly competitive, not in this poll. In Montana, this would be a flip. John Tester, the incumbent Democrat, is losing to Tim Sheehy by 4 points. That is closer, though, than what most polls are projecting. In Nevada, it's not even close. The incumbent Democrat, Jackie Rosen, beating Sam Brown, the Republican, by 7 points. In Ohio, this is the most stunning one. Democrat plus 6. Sherrod Brown is winning re-election in this poll, beating Bernie Moreno, the Republican, by an astonishing 6 points. That's more than Ruben Gallego. That's more than how much the Republican is winning by in Montana, which is insane. In Pennsylvania, Bob Casey, the Democrat, does hang on very narrowly, but he does by 2 points. Again, Sherrod Brown winning by more than Bob Casey. That's interesting. Texas, the other real shocker. Ted Cruz is only up by a point in an internal Republican poll over Colin Allred. That is just really stunning. That you do not see. Ted Cruz only up by a point in an internal poll. That means he is truly in trouble. In Wisconsin, the Democrat Tammy Baldwin, very narrow race, but she is up by 1. So this is a disaster for Republicans. Putting it simply, considering that this is a internal poll supposed to make, boost where they actually are. Internal polls always, way overestimate the campaign for which they sponsor. This is an absolute disaster for the Republican Party. A whole new ballgame for Democrats in terms of these Senate races. Let's just map it out to really comprehend where we're at. And they actually, interestingly, they did not poll Nebraska, which is a grave mistake. Nebraska looks extremely competitive now. One of the most competitive Senate races. And they also did not poll the state of Florida. That one could be battleground, we'll see. But again, let's just map this out. Again, Nevada, that was a 7-point margin. That's a likely margin state. Arizona was a 5-point margin. You had Wisconsin, that was a lean margin. That was a point victory. Michigan is likely. Pennsylvania was a 2-point victory there. Texas, all the way down to a 1-point victory for Ted Cruz there. Montana, also a lean margin victory there. And then Ohio, that was a 6-point win, a stunning likely margin. That would just be a huge upset if Sherrod Brown were to win by 6 points. So again, we're leaving out 2 Senate races, Nebraska and Florida, so nobody has claimed majority. But as you can see, if you just based off of the safe states plus the states that the Senate Leadership Republican Fund polled, it's tied. It's 49-49. And, that comes down to 2 pretty close states. Now, Florida, Rick Scott is absolutely favored, but Nebraska is so close right now. If you take a look at the Nebraska polls, here, remember, you have an independent named Dan Osborne, who is basically endorsed by the Nebraska Democratic Party, meaning the Nebraska Democrats are not putting up a candidate for Senate, because that would just split the vote with Dan Osborne, meaning Deb Fischer would win. So, it's a very strategic move in Nebraska, and it's, just simply put, an extremely interesting race in Nebraska. So you have an independent versus a Republican. There's no Democrat. Now, this independent, I don't know if he would exactly caucus with the Democrats. However, he is a union leader. He is what the Republicans are attacking him on. This is the only reason I know it. But he has retweeted Bernie Sanders' tweets in the past. This is, at least fiscally, an extremely progressive type of guy. Now, of course, he does have, not socially conservative views. I don't know about that. He doesn't really speak about things that don't matter like that, like whatever culture war stuff. But when it comes to securing the border, issues like that, immigration, he is, at least campaigning, he is conservative on. However, I would be willing just to put him as a Democrat. He is fiscally progressive. He would absolutely vote for any progressive legislation that matters, passes through Congress, or that even that meets Congress. So, Nebraska, looking at the Nebraska polls, as you can see, now most of them are sponsored by Dan Osborne, but still, he is leading in the majority of polls. You can see in his own poll, he is ahead by 3. In his own poll, he is ahead by 2. In his own poll, he is ahead by 1. But look at this one. This one got a lot of people's attention. This was from 14 days ago. This is a completely independent group of either side. The Bullfinch group is the pollster sponsored by the Independent Center. And they show Dan Osborne up by 5. Maybe even more stunning, in Deb Fischer's own internal poll, again, meant to make her look like she is good, and, to give her money because she will continue to be in Congress and pass through legislation that the donors want, she is ahead only by 6%. This is the most concerning poll for Deb Fischer out of all of these. Even though it's her best poll, it is the worst. In terms of on the baseline, the margin, it's the best. It is the worst because it is an internal poll. And as you can see, these polls do not completely discount them. Look at, this was the same poll. So, interestingly, Nebraska, that little red dot, that indicates that there was a second Senate race in this race. That's because you had a retirement, Ben Sass, and there's a special election. So that means that there's a special election this year, and there is a regular Senate election. So now both their senators are up for re-election or election in Nebraska. So as you can see, they polled the special election in the same Dan Osborne sponsored poll, as well as the regular election, which is what Dan Osborne is running in. And in that special election, it's not even close. This is exactly the margin that you'd expect. Pete Ricketts is the Republican running for his first full term. There was a special election and everything. He was appointed to the Senate, so now he's actually running for a term. He's beating the Democrat Preston Love by 18 points. That's exactly the margin that you'd expect. Donald Trump won Nebraska by 19 points in 2020. So, to see Dan Osborne running 19 points better than the other Democrat in the race, you can boost your own numbers, but if you did, it would also be boosting the Democrats' numbers in the special election race, because by boosting your numbers, you're going to places placing a higher emphasis on places that are going to be, in this case, more liberal or more progressive or more democratic. So if Dan Osborne really was boosting his numbers in his internal polls, we would see a lot closer of a race here, but we're not. So Nebraska is extremely important, and it's shocking, really, that they did not poll it in the Republican Senate Leadership Fund internal polls. So honestly, Nebraska could very well go to Dan Osborne. We'll just characterize him as a Democrat for the purpose of this video. And if Kamala Harris does win the presidency, which I currently have her doing with 276 electoral votes, and Tim Walz is the tie-breaking vote as the president of the Senate, then then Democrats take control of the U.S. Senate. They take control. This wasn't even a possibility too long ago, because, before this poll, we had an idea of how these races were, but this poll proves that states like Arizona, Maryland, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, these states that, in the beginning of the year we thought would be critical battlegrounds, Democrats barely even need to focus on them, let alone Ohio. We were expecting two states to be the center focus in the 2024 elections. Montana and Ohio. Both are Republican states with incumbent Democratic senators running for re-election. But in this poll, you have Ohio, Sherrod Brown ahead by 6. It's not even competitive. And honestly, looking at the weakness of Bernie Moreno as a candidate, this is entirely in the realm of possibility. Now, Montana is flipping to the Republicans. That's expected. I have had John Tester losing for quite a while now. But it doesn't even matter. I mean, it matters. But it adds a whole new dynamic when you have Nebraska so close and Texas razor thin. Because, again, Democrats currently have 51 seats in the Senate. After the 2022 elections, it's 51-49. West Virginia, Joe Manchin is retiring. He's a Democrat. That's an automatic flip, right? So Republicans are at 50 seats just like that. Now, again, I do have Democrats winning control of the Senate. I have Democrats winning the presidency. So with Tim Walz casting the tie-breaking vote as VP, Democrats only need 50 seats. So, it's already automatically 50 for Republicans. So that means that Democrats would have to hold all of their seats, right? They can't lose one more. Or can they? Because if they lose Montana, which they are expected to do, these polls from this, these internal polls reveal that there are other avenues to controlling the Senate. It's not just holding all of your seats. So what does that mean? That means looking to other seats. If you're losing Montana, if that's a flip for Republicans, sure, but you can flip another seat. In this poll, these internal polls, it proves that it can be Texas. Colin Allred led in a poll not too long ago. I believe it was Survey USA. They had it flipping blue. Now, obviously, wow, there have been a lot of polls in this race, but it was Morning Consult. Sorry. Colin Allred led by a point. And as you can see, the polls are tight here. +5 from Mayor's College. +3, +3, +3. +2 from the New York Times. And now, just +1 from a literal internal Senate leadership fund that is supposed to make it look better for Republicans than it actually is. So, truly stunning developments when it comes to the, entirely the state of the race in the Senate, of the question of who will control the Senate after the 2024 elections. It proves that it is entirely, somehow, in the realm of possibility that Democrats can. And that is because over these past few weeks, or past month or two, we have seen two states now become increasingly competitive. Nebraska, absolutely, and Texas. Texas wasn't really on anyone's radar at the beginning of the year, but Colin Allred has run a really, magnificent campaign when it comes to the efficiency of it. He has run a great campaign right now, making it a razor-thin race in a leaning red state. And then, of course, again, you've got Dan Osborne, independent, in Nebraska. Nobody was expecting that. On top of it, you've had states like Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Ohio. Not necessarily Ohio. This is just one poll. But in the other polls as well, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania just become out of reach for Republicans. Now, there hasn't been an opposite effect in really many states. It's not like, Democrats are becoming out of reach in states like Montana or Florida. That's just not the case. It's only happening in the positive direction for Democrats. Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ohio in this poll, now just becoming out of reach for Republicans. Republicans, and I should say Democrats don't even need to focus on them anymore, pour time and resources and everything into those races, no. But Republican seats are now losing ground, by the Republicans. They are losing ground. They are becoming razor-thin competitive seats. That's Nebraska. That's Texas. The only one that isn't looking good... there's only one Democratic seat. I'm sorry, two. West Virginia. But the only other that isn't looking good for Democrats, that's Montana. And that, that was the case when, this was expected to be the map. Nebraska safe, Texas likely for Republicans. And this was when we were saying, yeah, Senate control is completely out of reach for Democrats. They cannot win majority. But now, that was with Montana flipping, but Democrats and, I guess, independent Dan Osborne, they have made up some serious ground in two critical states, Nebraska and Texas. Could you imagine if Dan Osborne and Colin already won in Texas, and they got 51 seats? That would be stunning. But I've been saying for quite a while now, Tester is done in Montana. He is doomed. He is not winning in Montana. If Democrats want to win the Senate, they should, one, focus on already in Texas. That should be the number one priority. Number two, get Dan Osborne elected in Nebraska. And that one's only number two because he is an independent and, a little more weary. Number three, get Ucarsel Powell elected in Florida. So, wow, this is just a really stunning poll. Just changes the race when it comes to these 2024 Senate elections. So thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to comment your thoughts on this down below. Let me know what you think about this poll. Subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a like, and I will see you all next time.